Thursday Night Football is upon us, an AFC West battle that doesn't look like a particularly fun one on paper, but the money still spends. So we'll do the work we always do here on the Splash Play channels for our showdown slates, and of course in the main slates as well. We're going to dive in and compare data from our friends over at Stochastic, see what they're thinking about projections and ownership as well. We'll hop across the aisle, see what ETR thinks for the best plays, what the cash game lineup is. We'll run some sims if they have them. We'll hop back to Stochastic, run a sim on there. I'll try to do a hand build. And by in this video, you know all the must plays and 3 ways to get unique on tonight's showdown slate. Broncos and Raiders, let's get into it. Team total here, greatly favoring the Broncos, 9-point spread, favoring them at home today. Vegas, 17 implied points, Broncos, 26 implied points. It does look like one that's going to be played a certain way by a lot of the field today, but certainly there's going to be some things we could do to get a little bit different on this one. And one thing I will note here in the projection set, actually before I do that, Monday night, got a lot of shit right for that video. So shout out to all you guys out there. I saw a lot of you guys tweeting, some of you guys in the Discord as well, mentioning that you did a good job because of some of the stuff we talked about here, playing more Cardinals dominant builds. Of course, as we always know on showdowns, things get askew, things get silly, and that's what we're going to try to capture once again for this Thursday night slate. We got Bo Nix, your top projected guy right now here in Stochastic's data. 17.96 projection for Bo Nix. Smash the like on the way in as well. That's also a good idea from Justin here. Bo Nix in this spot, nice team total for Denver. Also a spot where the Raiders pass defense not very good overall, even though that didn't help out. Poor Brian Thomas last week, who is now lost in the sauce entirely for the Jaguars. Still a spot where the Raiders pass defense is one we want to attack most weeks. And in particular, they are more of a pass funnel start the year with a 0.13 EPA per dropback allowed, a 0.14 EPA per pass allowed. For comparison, a negative 0.06 EPA per rush. And in the red zone, a negative 0.35 EPA per rush attempt there. So Raiders defense a little bit better versus the run than people realize, a little bit worse versus the pass than people realize. It's a spot where Bo Nix, I think, is a pretty appealing play. As captain, I think stacking him up with Cortland Sutton, with Troy Franklin, with Evan Ingram will look good. We've no Marvin Mims today, even though unfortunately he is still in Stochastic's data, so that's one thing to note here. It's going to make Troy Franklin look a little bit better when they do update. Cortland Sutton a little bit better. Pat Bryant a little bit better after he got 30 snaps last week. Ingram, I think, comes up a little bit. Maybe even Troutman comes up a little bit. But Bo Nix, he will be the top projected guy, I would think, no matter what on the slate. And he is a strong play today to 10-6 salary. We'll see what he looks like when we sort by value in a moment coming up here. Brock Bowers went nuts last game, 3 touchdowns, massive passing yardage as well, or receiving yardage going his way. For Brock Bowers, I do think that people are going to be willing to play him a lot today, despite the adverse matchup against the Broncos team that is one of the best pass defenses in football, and not just where Surtain is, overall across the board. Negative 0.12 EPA per dropback allowed, so basically the exact inverse what the Raiders are giving up. Negative 0.14 EPA per pass allowed, one of the league lows. Catchable ball rates as well at 75.4%. And, they also have shut down the slot particularly well. Generally, slot targets, one of your more efficient targets on the football field, because of the fact you can pepper them pretty easily. Slot receivers tend to lead to first downs a little bit more. They're negative EPA per slot target. So it's not a great matchup on paper for Brock Bowers. It's really not a great matchup on paper for any of the Raiders. We're still going to have to play some Raiders, I think, relative to what the ownership is going to be. People expecting that Broncos ass-kicking build. Going to be a lot of Broncos D played, a lot of Will Lutz, the Broncos kicker being played. But Bowers will often be the Raiders bring back in those kind of builds. And certainly, hard to argue the upside. They built the offense out of Brock Bowers last week. Still a spot where this week he's probably the first guy they're going to look for. But the Broncos defense, a good defense, will also note the Raiders are going to look for Brock Bowers a lot here. So that's the yin and yang of Brock Bowers sitting at a $9,800 salary. A very good projection, and he will often be the one Raider that people play. J.K. Dobbins at number 3, $8,600 salary for him, a 14.9 projection. So a good amount behind Bo Nix, a little bit behind Brock Bowers, point and change behind him. For J.K. Dobbins, the role is still pretty good overall. 2 red zone opportunities a game, 1.2 inside the 10-yard line. Overall, 16.4 inside of touches. He's been much better than R.J. Harvey in the run game. 0.08 EPA per run for Dobbins at more volume, as opposed to negative 0.08 for R.J. Harvey. But Harvey's getting there in the pass game more. Dobbins adding very little value value in the pass game of the negative 0.4 EPA per target as opposed to 0.44 for Harvey per target. Harvey catching a lot of touchdowns. That'll help out a little bit more. Dobbins' role is kind of a front runner role, kind of similar to your Derrick Henry roles. If the Broncos are playing well, it might be a shot of Dobbins hitting that ceiling more so. And certainly for Dobbins, this projection, I think he will be in play at captain. I think he'll come up a good amount for the field, and we'll see what the stochastic sim has for us in a moment. But Dobbins, a player that I think the role is not fantastic, or not guaranteed in the way that maybe other bell cow backs might be. Even Ashton Jeanty in the same game. For as much as the Raiders are going to run, it's going to go through Ashton Jeanty. For the Broncos, it's not really the case. So I think Dobbins an okay play, but definitely one at 8,600. He's a lot more expensive than RJ Harvey, and these guys only about 10 snaps apart per game. Ashton Jeanty at number 4 here. Not a good team total for the Raiders, so that's 17 implied points. So Jeanty doesn't come up as much in terms of the projection. That said, he is getting 3.4 red zone opportunities a game, 1.5 inside the 10-yard line. Also getting 3.1 targets a game, which is more per game than Harvey and also than Dobbins. For Jeanty, I think the big thing is that he's missing tackles at a pretty good rate, 27% avoided tackle rate for him. One of the better marks in the league, I think, in terms of counting avoided tackle stats. I believe he's got more than anybody else in football. And he is getting himself about 19 and 10 touches a game, 18.6, if you want to be accurate to the decimal. The big thing is it's not a great matchup on paper going against Denver. They're tougher versus the pass defense or versus passing overall, but still a negative 0.07 EPA per run allowed, negative 0.31 EPA per actually, no, that's per red zone pass. Negative 0.14 EPA per red zone run. So they're shutting down everything. It's really the main thing to take away from the Broncos defense. You're probably not surprised to hear that, but the data does back it out in the same way. I think for Jeanty, the biggest issue is that he's probably not going to have the massive touchdown expectation. But if the Raiders somehow flip the game here, if they were to somehow pull an upset, Jeanty probably a part of that, you would think, keeping the ball away from this Broncos passing offense that should be able to find success if you keep giving him more opportunities against the Raiders. So Jeanty, I think, makes sense in some builds. At a 10-2 salary, though, he's pretty expensive for a guy that's not super well projected as your number 4 overall guy. Geno Smith, you can see my skeptical face in the thumbnail with Geno, 13.5 projection, not very good. That said, one thing we talk about pretty much all the time in these showdown videos, number 1, nobody's going to be playing Geno or not playing Geno as much as they might normally. Second QB on a slate. Number 2 would be that a lot of people are going to be playing the Broncos D. A lot of people are going to be playing Broncos ass-kicking builds, and the Broncos create a lot of pressure. Geno drops back a good amount. That's the volatility we talk about. When QBs drop back a lot, it was a big thing on Monday Night Football. We kind of saw it get there when both defenses made the winning lineup for the Monday Night Football slate. Jacoby Brissett drops back a lot. Cowboys create pressure. That's sort of the yin and yang, where if they get to Jacoby Brissett like they did a few times, they're going to get sacks. If they don't get to Brissett, there's volatility in terms of, like, if he hangs in there, gets a pass downfield, you could have more upside. I think if you are trying to play contrarian, and I think in particular, if you are like me and you're somebody that's going to put in, a handful of entries in the lotto and the Millie Maker stuff up top, and you're playing kind of more balanced builds in the 20 maxes, I think you want to try to play Geno more and take the shot that the Raiders stay competitive in this spot, because nobody's going to expect it. Everybody's going to be playing, dominant stuff overall. But I think that for Geno Smith here, 13.5 fantasy points, don't think he's going to come up super often. Necessarily in an optimal kind of situation in a cash game sort of build. But I think Geno represents just you playing against what everybody else in the field is going to be playing, which is that the Broncos dominate here. They kick ass, score a lot of points. That's not always the case. And it's not, to me, as cut and dry as the Cowboys situation was, where it's like, okay, Arizona's defense is pretty good. The Cowboys defense is not very good. There's going to be production was sort of my assumption on Monday night slate. I played a ton of Cardinals heavy stuff and advocated for it here on stream. Dog, can you go to your bed? We don't need to hang out right now. Bed, go to your bed. Go to your bed. I hate having the dog in the studio, and my wife would not take the dog for the show. And now she's just fucking staring at me. She's going to try to jump up on the couch. And I don't want the dog on the couch. Kitty, go to your bed. Go to your bed. There you go. You got it. All right. We moved her collar in the right direction. To your bed. Go. Stop wagging. Fucking dog. Anyway, Anyway, everybody's going to be playing heavy Broncos stuff. Broncos kick ass. They don't think the Raiders are good. If you capture Geno getting on the good side of volatility here, getting on the good side of the Broncos pass defense that will be weaker without Surtain, even though they're still good, I think that's the way that you have a shot at real big upside today. So Geno Smith, that is projection, not super appealing, but he'll be appealing to me today in contrarian builds. Let's sort by value here. I know some will come later. One thing, Laffy, what? This is not words. He said, I don't know what that is. Poor kitty, not poor kitty. Kitty doesn't need to fucking be on top of me every minute of the day. Love the dog, but she doesn't need to be here. No, go to your bed. To your bed. Not over here. Jesus Christ. We get, like the Geno angle as leverage, no Pat Surtain plus game script could lead toward a Geno splash game. I'm hoping so. And again, it's the fact that nobody really wants to play it. That's always the thing in showdowns that matters. You want to still play lineups that capture the expected outcome, but when you're not playing that expected outcome, we talked about it a lot with NBA lately. You're trying to play inverse outcomes that people aren't on as much, and then really the field is just going to load up on the Raiders get their ass kicked today. So think about how that doesn't happen. Top value plays. Adam Prentice, the Broncos fullback, mostly your top value overall. Prentice last game played 10 snaps. Theoretically, I guess there's some low ADOT targets available with Mims not playing. Though honestly, Mims has been so barely in the mix in a way that's fucking baffles me in every possible way. I don't know what Adam Prentice is really picking up there. But he's $200. He's coming up here. Probably won't get played very often. Ian Thomas, our third tight end for the Raiders. A lot of snaps for Bowers and Mayer last week with 53 it was for Mayer, 52 for Bowers. Ian Thomas played 11. I am aware that Mims is out. This is not my data. This is stochastics. But thank you, Jim. I think I said that like 3 times already. But yes, Mims is out today. He's still in the data set, though. Ian Thomas, going to barely play. You're going to have guys playing Bowers, get him out. You'll have some amount of people playing Michael Mayer as well, though probably not as much as I think should, based on the snap counts. If that's the case, Ian Thomas will be your low-owned play that does get about 10 snaps, some of which are probably special teams. But Ian Thomas, not super exciting as a value. That's that. Number 3, we got Jack Besh. 4.9 fantasy points for him. Expectation here is that he'll get some amount of Jacoby Myers routes, but I do think a large portion of the field will assume that he gets all of Myers vacated routes. What's most likely to me is that you get Bowers taking over a good amount more in the slot. You also will get Tyler Lockett probably increasing his snap share after he played, I believe it was 16 snaps last week. No, 19 snaps last week for Tyler Lockett in his Raiders debut. He'll get more work. Dante Thornton was inactive last week. He'll get more work, probably not out of the slot. But the point is that Jack Besh could get overplayed because of the fact that there are a lot of people that are going to assume that he gets all of the work. And I don't think that's the case. Still a worthwhile play at a 2K salary and a 4.9 projection. But Jack Besh, just worry he gets a little bit overplayed. Tyler Beatty, 1,400 salary for him, 3.1 fantasy points. Beatty definitely third in that RB room, behind Dobbins, behind RJ Harvey, but he's playing 14 snaps this past game, 11 the week before that, 21 before that. He could definitely score a touchdown in a situation where there is a pretty good team total. Beatty, not an exciting play, but I think Beatty and Besh, to me, more of the value you'd want to get to as opposed to Prentice and Ian Thomas. And number 5, Dylan Labe. Labe barely playing. The Raiders are pretty much only playing Genty. Labe did not play last week. Then they had a bye. Then he played 5 snaps before that. Besides that for Labe, I don't know. I guess he could be active and get on the field. But he's barely playing, really, not playing last week. Mostert got 6 snaps last week. He's barely playing. Zamir White out of the mix. Not really sure what you're trying to do to at RB or do at RB besides go Nash and Genty's way. And Genty, as we already saw, probably not popular himself enough that you're trying to get leverage against it. Mims, as we mentioned in the projection set here, this will flow away. You'll probably see an increase to Sutton and Franklin. I think a little bit more for Ingram. And probably Pat Bryant comes up substantially, and he might be a top value. Bryant with Mims in, a 3.6 projection at 3,200. If I had to guess, Pat Bryant probably gets like a 6 fantasy point projection or something, which will make him a decent value relative to this top list here. Come here, 50% for the takes, 50% for the dumb chat crash outs. There are a lot of dumb chat crash outs, that's true. Sometimes me against the chat, but usually Just people getting mad at me because I don't care. I'm just trying to show you guys the stuff I have to here on screen. And of course, guys, you want to see the data updated right now. Again, we have MIMS in the data set. Unfortunately, Stochastic didn't update in time for the stream, but it will get updated. Make sure to check out Stochastic, 15% off. Use the promo code SPLASH on there. Half the money you pay to them comes back to me, and all the cheap stuff, all the expensive stuff is 15% off on there. You get all the sports you want as well. If you really want to do that, get NBA, NFL, NHL, whatever. Is NASCAR still going? MMA. You get all the rigged MMA fights for yourself, but get the data and the Sims products or the cheap stuff too with that promo code SPLASH. Link in the description too to check it out. All right. Top owned plays right now, again with Mim still in the data set. Bo Nix expected chalk, 76% ownership overall, 19% in captain. Again, I do think that people will expect to see the pass game have success here. That said, as I talked about on Stochastic this morning with Laffy, Nix has not been great this year. 75.2% catchable ball rate is like lower than your Justin Fields types. Geno, people will shit on overall, but he is a guy who is getting himself an 83.4% catchable ball rate. So he's actually been, pretty decent. But Nix, the big thing is that you have this high total. You have certainly some pass game upside. I would say that for Bo Nix in this spot, people are going to play him a lot, but I do think trying to capture the upside, and in particular, capture the upside of him at captain is something that I want to do. So for how Bo Nix looks, he looks, I think, appropriately owned here, 76% ownership, 19% in captain. That said, he hasn't really played as well as you would like to see. And with the field being there so heavy, if you just want to play into what the reality of the season has been, it's that Bo Nix has not been as good as people think. Brock Bowers, but look, I'm going to be with the ownership. So ultimately I'm telling you that, and I'm going to fucking play him like the rest of the fish. Brock Bowers, number 2 overall, 59% expected ownership, 17% in captain. You put up 47 fantasy, it was like 46 and change fantasy points last week. You're going to be owned a lot the next time you play. For Bowers here, it seems like the ownership is willing to throw the matchup out of the picture here. Raiders 2, not a super great pass total. I do expect Bowers to kind of be the linchpin of this offense moving forward. That should have been the case after last year. That said, for Bowers, when everybody's going to play this assumption that he just gets all of the work and that's sort of what the offense is, I think you're probably going to make more money fading Bowers today and trying to get away from that. Again, at least for some portion of entries, even if you're going to be with the ownership at 60%. Bowers, you expect to have big upside, but Broncos create pressure at a very high rate, 28% pressure rate overall, 27% blitz rate. You could see Bowers in more to block. You could see things like that. You could also just see the Broncos sell out to stop him and say, beat us with anybody else in this team. And that could open up Genty more. So I think for Bowers, I don't want to be low on him by a lot, but I do think for him, it's just whatever the field's going to play a lot of. You kind of want to be mindful of not playing it as much, or at the very least, when you don't play that guy, just being more different about it and understanding how that guy doesn't succeed or how other guys succeed because he fails. That's the way to think about Brock Bowers, because he will be the one Raider that gets played, and they get a good amount. And I would say, too, if you have a good Bowers lineup you like, but it feels chalky, just going from Bowers down to Geno, where you get the kind of built-in QB projection, and you don't have Bowers succeeding, but maybe Bowers gives you like 13 fantasy points, but Geno gives you 15, 16, even more than that. I think that's one way to look at this, given the fact that people are just going to plunk Bowers in whenever they can. J.K. Dobbins, 57% ownership overall, expected 14% at captain. Again, I hate having R.J. Harvey on the team because it just means that there are touchdowns that can go not Dobbins' way. Dobbins has been the better rusher, Harvey the better pass catcher. Raiders, a tougher run defense than they are a pass defense, so that's something where I think you can make the case to come in under on Dobbins a little bit more. 8,600 though, a reasonable price tag for an RB who is a 9-point favorite at home. So Dobbins, play as much as you want, but he will be top 3 chalk basically on the slate. Ashton Genty at number 4. We got 48% expected ownership, 8% at captain. I would say if you expect the Raiders to pull off an upset here, Genty being the captain is an interesting way to do that, because I think people, if they play the Raiders winning, they will play that through Bowers. But Genty, it's a tough matchup for him as much as anything in the pass game. But Genty maybe gets a few more checkdowns. Broncos not really giving up a ton of RB targets. 12.5% rate there would be one of the lower marks in the league, but a 0.4 EPA per RB target. So Genty breaking a big play or something, adding value by, That's something that could happen. I think Genty's a real interesting play. Still think Geno, to me, is like, there's more volatility against the defense that blitzes a lot. So, like, my brain goes QB. But Genty's the same concept here. If you just don't want to play the Broncos steamrolling the Raiders like everybody else will, Genty's one mechanism to try to do that. Would I be willing to play Mayer with Bowers? Yeah, I mean, I think they do kind of pull from each other a little bit, but Mayer's pretty cheap. And I think a lot of people will probably try to avoid playing the both of them, even though, you know, the opportunity for them to be out there a good amount. They both played 50+ snaps last week. It's basically them and Trey Tucker. I'd expect to keep that level of workload and route equity. So I think you can play them both, yeah. But, you know, Mayer, I don't think had, I mean, what was his box score results last week? Mayer had 3 for 26 in a game where Bowers went nuts. I would say there is sort of probably going to be an inverse dynamic here to Mayer and Bowers' success. But again, Mayer's cheap enough that I think he can do it. Low-owned plays to look at real fast here. They'll hop over DTR, see what they think. Michael Mayer, 10%. That feels light. Raiders D at 11 when you have Broncos and Will Lutz at 37 and 35. I think is very noteworthy. Lutz in a captain play. That's a way to get unique, but Lutz is really highly owned overall, and I think people will play him at captain more than you probably should a kicker. But, you know, that's in a game where you expect the Raiders to get some stops in the red zone. I think it's reasonable to play the kicker for sure. It's a lot of ownership, though, here for Broncos and Will Lutz. So, in my opinion, if you're trying to put a few bullets into a large field tournament like the Millie Maker, and just trying to play Raiders offense succeeding or get direct leverage by playing Raiders D or Daniel Carlson, I think would be interesting moves, because there's a lot of ownership for a defense and a kicker. And what we talked about on Monday, which I think was the best take I had that I really want to remember every single showdown slate. When people are playing defenses, we want to play defense. When everybody's playing defenses, we want to not play the defense as much and maybe think about a shootout more. That's definitely how I view it. Flip kicker ownership for leverage, for sure. Tyler Lockett, not very exciting, but I think he'll get more snaps. He's been really awful, though, so it's tough to say that I have a lot of faith in him. He's been one of the worst receivers in football for like 2 years now, so I think he'll be out there more than people want. That's the best I can give for him. But Tyler Lockett are 10% owned. Pat Bryant at 5%. That's probably going to come up a little bit more when they take Marvin Mims out of the data set. Raheem Mostert barely getting played, but also barely playing. So that's the yin and yang of that. Dante Thornton should be out there more. I do think he is a pivot to what will likely be a higher-owned Trey Tucker. That said, Trey Tucker has a concrete role. Thornton was inactive last week. You know, hard to feel great about him with the year he's had. There's a lot down here. I don't think it's anything super exciting, but, you know, Lockett's going to play. Bryant's going to play more. Mayer's going to play probably 50 snaps. Raiders D gets you direct leverage. There's stuff to do. Let's go to the solver next. Let me refresh this to see if it's going to log me out, because I almost definitely think it's going to log me out the second I switch over. So let me just do that then. All right. Now we're going to see what ETR's data thinks, guys. And before I do that, well, actually, I'll do it at the same time. But please do hit that like button, guys. Hit that subscribe button as well. The NFL channel, frankly, at this point, I'm just trying to keep up with the NBA channel. That's having a lot of great growth. Of course, NFL here, I'm still doing the work from Monday, Thursday Showdown videos. Tomorrow, the main slate as well, same time, 12 p.m. Eastern. So come back for that and hit that like button and subscribe. And if all you're going to do is fade me here, that means you got value out of the video. So, you know, just do that stuff. I'm also adjusting projections here so we can run a cash game lineup build at the same time. I am whoring with one hand, updating the sim on the other. Let's see what our cash game build is. Okay, Adam here. No Bowers, no money. Again, that's, you know, it's going to be a very chalky take on that slate for sure, but maybe a week late for that one. All right, we got cash game lineup here according to ETR data. So we saw what Stochastic thinks. Here's ETR. And for what it's worth, pretty sure they have Mims out. They do have Mims out. They are giving Pat Bryant a 5.6 projection. I thought it'd be around 6. They're giving Sutton a 13.6 projection. Troy Franklin, 12.5. Those guys' workload's pretty close to even. And Evan Ingram, 9.7. So pretty even splits there. Trent Sherfield, 0.6. Nothing really going to him. Mostly Franklin, Sutton, Bryant, 4 Mims, and then Ingram gets a little bit of a boost. But let's go to this cash game lineup. It is Bo Nix at captain. Brock Bowers makes it, so he is in our cash game build according to ETR data. Troy Franklin, Trey Tucker, Will Lutz, Evan Ingram. So not a Broncos onslaught in the cash game build, but a Broncos dominant one. We are not getting any RBs in with ETR data, but we're not getting Broncos defense in either. So projection-wise, they might not be a fantastic play if they're not in the cash game build, but I do think Broncos D ends up getting played a lot. Bo Nix is in all of these top 25 lineups here, again, with no variance on it. We're just looking at the projection math, because the goal was to figure out with this part of the process what projections drive people to the most. ETR data, stochastic data, to your highest played data providers out there. So that's what we're trying to look at now. Evan Ingram is in 88% of the lineups. I am surprised by that. I thought Ingram would be a sneaky play. The good news is that the data supports playing him. The bad news is that ETR people are going to get Ingram probably a good amount today. Trey Tucker, they're going to get a good amount as well. 84% of these top lineups have him. That's the big guys that stand out. Quarter of the lineups have Geno and Trey Tucker. Nothing really to note there. Overall stack construction, half the lineups have a 4-2 build favoring the Broncos, 24% more of a 5-1 Broncos build. So the expectation here is about 3/4 of lineups will be Broncos dominant. You aren't naturally getting any Raiders 5-1s. You're also not naturally getting any Raiders 4-2s. So anything you play that has the Raiders being a more successful team today, or even not even successful, just like the Broncos consolidating opportunity. Maybe it's only Nix and Dobbins that get there, something like that. If you have less Broncos and it hits, people just aren't going to be playing that side as much, which isn't a surprise, but the data does support it. Because sometimes you'll have it where like a team is like too lowly priced, and even though the Raiders are a massive underdog, you're still getting like Raiders dominant builds. But it's not the case today, it seems. All right, we're going to build some lineups here. I'll put in 2 unique so it doesn't take forever. And we got our stack settings on here where we are boosting. If we have a captain QB, we're boosting pass catchers. If we have a captain receiver, we are boosting the QB. Same thing for a captain tight end. That's what I do on every slate here. And then ETR variants introduced. 250 lineups. Let's see what we get. And I'm going to drink water. I feel like I've earned it. I feel like if I were a prisoner here in the screen for you guys, you would go, good work. You deserve a sip of water. So that's what I'm going to take here. But I wonder, I know in Stochastic, and we're going to rerun the sim there in a moment and see what we get. I know in Stochastic, some of the top lineups were Raiders 5-1 stuff, Raiders 4-2 stuff. I'm curious to see if ETR gives us that up top as well. A lot of your top projected ones here. You're getting 4-2s, 5-1s favoring the Broncos. At least 1 3-3. There's a Raiders 4-2. I'm surprised Evan Ingram's making it, though. Really thought, like, with Ingram, because of the fact he hasn't really had any massive games. Let's go through the box score real fast. Last week, flat 0 on 3 targets. Less than 10 most of the weeks of the year. He's had 4 weeks where he's been above 10. 1 week. 2 weeks where he got above 20. Oh, this is from last year. It's like, wait a minute, I don't recall him being good at all last year. Yeah, so this year, he's only had 1 week above 10 fantasy points. I don't think people are going to want to play Ingram that much. Even if ETR is saying it, I don't think Ingram's ownership gets that high. Let's simulate this in the Millie Maker. Let's see what we get. Ingram is not playing enough snaps to feel good about the play. Troutman, I think, is playing like 46. Let's see. Troutman played, 46 last week. Ingram played 32. It's respectable. He's getting targeted a lot when he's out there, but it's not enough snaps to feel good about it. Your top ROI lineup, according to this ETR sim we just ran here, 1 dupe expected with a 976% ROI. Trey Tucker, captain. Bo Nix, J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey, Ingram, Geno Smith. I think we're seeing the thing here where we're not getting Broncos D and we're not getting Will Lutz. We are getting more of a there is scoring build. I really strongly believe here. I didn't run an ETR sim before this, but like I really strongly believe that's the way to try to play tonight to give yourself the most upside and get away from like what's going to be a dupe fest on Broncos heavy stuff. Your number 2 ROI lineup, 928% ROI on this. No dupes expected. Geno captain. That's why it's on the thumbnail. Bo Nix, Evan Ingram, Brock Bowers, Trey Tucker, Tyler Lockett makes it. So you're getting single-digit ownership on Geno captain and Tyler Lockett. And you're fading all the Broncos receivers. That's that. Lockett does seem horrible, but it's a showdown. Like, I agree, he's dust, but he's played. Like, he played last week. Besh didn't, Thornton didn't. That tells you where the pecking order is, unfortunately, whether you think it's fair or correct or not. Geno captain here, Bo Nix again, RJ Harvey, Trey Tucker, Tyler Lockett again, Ashton Genty makes this one. So another Geno stack here, leaving only 100 on the table, but because you are playing a Raiders dominant build and fading all the Broncos receivers and Dobbins, only one dupe expected. Number 4 ROI lineup here, according to ETR. We got Troy Franklin, Ashton Genty, Trey Tucker, Will Lutz. So chalky kicker makes it here. Evan Ingram, Bo Nix. Look, I like Troy Franklin at captain. I will say, though, on the Stochastic stream this morning, really stood out to me that like 5 different people were like, Troy Franklin captain. He's got a lot of volatility to him. Like, he's not catching a ton of balls right now. And frankly, he hasn't been super efficient with the targets he's getting. If people are going to play into the guy where he's been inefficient, you're better off assuming most likely that he's going to be inefficient again. But right now it's 7% ownership expected by ETR. It just wouldn't shock me if Franklin pushes closer to 10 because, like, to me, whenever I see a lot of people talking about something, I do feel like the field is often pretty close to that. Not to give away my intel here. Your number 5 ROI lineup is Troy Franklin at captain again. Dobbins makes it. Trey Tucker is our 1 Raiders bringbacks. We're fading Bowers in this one. That helps us get a little bit more unique. RJ Harvey, Broncos D, Bo Nix makes it as well. And that's only 4 dupes expected on that. Yeah, just play that lineup and win on 300K. That's how it goes. That's how it works. All right. Top ROI players, Tyler Lockett, number 1 ROI overall. There's 15% exposure in the flex, and he has a 230% ROI, which is much higher than the number 2 guy, Trey Tucker. I mean, the main thing I would take away is that it seems to believe that you're getting your highest ROI by playing a non-Bowers pass catcher, whether that's in addition to Bowers or in lieu of Bowers. It's definitely coming up here for ETR with Lockett and Trey Tucker, 2 highest ROI guys. Number 3, Broncos D, despite being owned a good amount, 21% exposure across these lineups, does have a 171% ROI. No captain exposure, though, so Broncos D coming up in the flex, enough to justify the chalkiness. Raiders D, though, right behind it, 158% ROI, only 2% exposure. When Raiders D hits, though, you probably win a lot of money on it, which is what we talked about. Bandy, Michael Bandy, that is, for the Broncos, getting some extra snaps with Mims out, but probably not a lot. Don't believe he played more than 10 last week. He played 6 snaps last week. It's enough to consider playing given the Broncos team total, but I'd rather have Pat Bryant and his similar ROI and a much more projectable role. That's what you're getting right now. How often does Bowers play out the slot? Isn't Lockett a slot guy? Bowers, I mean, I don't track routes per position like that. But Bowers has 18 slot targets on the year, 16 inline tight end targets. Lockett, 19 slot targets. Tucker, 24. I mean, you could play guys on both sides of the slot. I don't know. Okay. Let's see. Let's go to Stochastic next. Nothing else to really look at here, other than we are getting mostly Broncos dominant stuff. Not a surprise. All right. Let's see if they've updated. I would really love it if they updated. They have not. Why the ROI is so much higher in ETR? Because they're calculating it differently, and also this is like a milli maker sim, so the ROI would inherently be higher because it's in a milli maker, whereas Stochastic is just in a theoretical field of 50,000 lineups, so it's not quite the same math. We're in the fun question period of things, guys. But please do, if you're watching this video, we're going to build a Stochastic sim now. We saw what ETR thinks. Now we'll see what the other side of the aisle, which would be the left wing and which would be the right wing. I feel like Stochastic would be the left wing and ETR would be the right wing. Because like there's so many redraft players, like that's inherently. We're not making it political though, just hypothesizing here while Sim builds lineups. Please do show some love. Click the links down below. You want to try the solver, which is kind of your traditional optimizer plus Sim with ETR's great data baked in. It's linked down below. Promo code SPLASH will also get you no discount, but it does show attribution for the show, and it is appreciated if you want to go try out the solver. And of course, Stochastic, link down below as well. Promo code SPLASH on there, same thing. 15% off. Best deal they have going right now because number one, it's in perpetuity. Get that 15% off in perpetuity, as I just said. And number two is that they don't have any other deals going. So it supports the show. Half the money you pay to Stochastic comes back to me. October was a really good month for me with NBA and NFL going. Help me keep that momentum going by joining down below for November because we're trying to get Luka Christmas presents, That's how it is. The former Typhel Tower checking in here. Shout out to the Toxic Tower. I presume that's our guy, Tyler. Go check out their streams. Those boys like to have some fun, and I like fun. How come when a lineup says 80%, I lose? Thought it was guaranteed. Yeah, that's the same thing. You get theoretical EV. You are ahead in terms of the just little points that float around you. They mean nothing. You can't use them for money, but they float around your head like you're a sim. I think that's how that goes. Like a literal sim from the video game, not a sim like we're going to run here. But this data has Marvin Mims in it still, so unfortunately, that is what it is. I suppose we could change the projections, but I'm not going to today. So we're going to look at these lineups, and if Mims comes up, we're going to go, never mind, pretend that's Pat Bryant or something. Your top ROI lineup, according to Stochastic, though, is a Raiders 5-1. We are seeing it happen here on Stochastic, too. And really important to take away, doesn't mean that the Raiders are going to kick ass today and you should play a ton of builds like that. There is a reason that Vegas builds casinos as the Broncos have a 9-point favorite at home or are a 9-point favorite at home. But that said, on a showdown build and everybody's building one way, you win the most money by playing contrarian, getting less dupes, all that. So going this way with a Raiders dominant build doesn't mean that's an expectation to happen, but when it does hit, you win a lot of money. Shout out Tyler. Appreciate the very generous gifting here. If you guys got a membership, thank Tyler. And of course, do make sure to check out the premium stream coming up tomorrow. And of course, my data sheet, which comes out on the Discord and the YouTube community tab every Saturday afternoon too. Yeah, shout out Tyler. Go check out his channel, especially if you got a membership. Go subscribe to the Typhel Tower or the Terror Tower, the Toxic Tower, the Tower of Doom. Go check out the Toxic Tower here. Just here you go. You see the name again. Check him out. But thank you, Tyler. I appreciate it. And love for you always, my man. Hope you're doing well. Tyler just went, I know, through I saw in the ship chasing Discord, a trip around Japan, all that stuff. So hope Tyler had a good time. Hope you ate some good fish. Not just the... I can't continue that sentence. Your top ROI lineup: Dobbins, Bowers, Carlson. Of course, the kicker for the Raiders, Geno Smith, Raiders D, Trey Tucker, leaving a bunch of money on the table, which doesn't feel like you need to do necessarily. If you have a Raiders dominant build like that, a Raiders onslaught, you're probably unique enough just by playing it. But a lot of money left on the table and a Dobbins captain. So I guess just a build where Dobbins hits and everything else just them playing from behind. Number 2, we got Bo Nix, captain, Brock Bowers, Broncos D, Marvin Mims, RJ Harvey, Will Lutz. Love seeing all this here. A lot of salary left on the table here. So if you are playing a Broncos dominant build, Stochastic thinks you need to leave $4,300. Of course, Mims won't make the final lineup, but just an expectation here. I think Mims would probably swap down pretty easily to a Pat Bryant. Trent Sherfield, probably not enough snaps to be out there. But Bo Nix, captain, in a 5-1, leaving a lot of money on the table. And there we go, another membership given, which apparently went to Tyler. So shout out to the re-gifting, the circle gift of gifted memberships, but love to hear it and love to see you guys paying it forward here in a way that also gives me fractional amounts of money. This is the best kind of paying it forward, where I also get slightly more money out of it. But thank you guys for your support, and glad to see the daisy chain of gifting memberships. Number 3 here in Stochastic, we got Trey Tucker, captain, Ashton Genty, Broncos D, Geno Smith makes it, Dobbins makes it, Raiders D. So a Raiders 4-2. Again, leaving a lot of money on the table here. But that build makes sense to me. You're playing both defenses, though. Number 4, Geno Smith at captain, Bo Nix, Daniel Carlson again, J.K. Dobbins again, Jack Besh makes this one, and Troy Franklin makes this one. Leaving a lot of money on the table yet again. Sorry, I keep repeating it, but it is worth pointing out. And Geno at captain in a balanced build. And number 5 is Cortland Sutton, captain, Bo Nix, Brock Bowers, Geno, Jack Besh, Michael Mayer, leaving only 1,400 on the table, but another Raiders dominant build. So 1, 2, 3 out of the top 5 are Raiders dominant builds. And then one was a Broncos onslaught where you left an impossible amount of money on the table at 4,300. Your top ROI players overall, Raheem Mostert, who only played 6 snaps last week at captain. The assumption here would be that the one time in the world where Raheem Mostert captain hits, you win all the money. I probably would not hold that in a lot of esteem. Raiders D at captain, that you can talk me into more, 7% ROI. Your only 2 positive ROI players on the slate and Stochastics top 150 lineups are Mostert captain and Raiders D captain. Jack Besh captain, though, is right behind that. Broncos D captain right behind that. And then Marvin Mims is on the slate. We'll say Tyler Lockett at captain right behind it. So weird. It's all captain plays with the top ROIs. Highest flex ROIs, Raiders D. Adam Prentice, the Broncos fullback. Bo Nix in the flex, your number 3 ROI. Geno Smith and Broncos D. So less silly ones in the flex in terms of our top ROI players, but if you do not have as positive ROI as the Raheem Mostert captain did. Overall top exposures, you're getting Bo Nix in the flex 54% of the time, Fields at 55%, so basically holding hands with the field on Bo Nix in the flex. Geno Smith in the flex, 44% exposure, Fields at 41 and change, so a little bit of a positive cosign for Geno. Hooray. Number 3 is J.K. Dobbins, 42% exposure, Fields at 43. Holding hands again. Ashton Jency, 40 and 40, flat with the field with that 40% exposure. And Broncos D, you are getting more than the field here. So a very chalky defense at 33% projected ownership. But Stochastic thinks you should get more. So that's interesting. I mean, that really tells you, by the way, like what portfolio building for a showdown looks like, where we're getting a lot of, Raiders stuff up top. We're getting Raiders defense coming up. And overall, you're getting Raiders defense 2x the field, but while they're 2xing the Raiders defense and getting even some at captain, getting 4% Raiders D at captain, you're still playing Broncos D above the field in the flex. You're still playing Broncos D above the field at captain, 7% exposure there. So the sim just loves defense today. But, you're still doing it in some unique ways, hopefully across the entire set of lineups. Highest leverage plays right now. So plays they want you to get the most of. Raiders D in the flex, 10% more than the field. We just saw that. Ashton Jency, 8% more at captains. You are playing that inverse outcome, most likely, of Jency hitting and the Broncos playing from behind or something. Daniel Carlson, you're getting 8% more in the field, so getting some kicker leverage there in the flex. Broncos D, 5% more in the field at flex. And Trey Tucker at captain, 4% positive leverage there. A 7% captain exposure in Stochastics top 150. Negative leverage, Evan Ingram, negative 11%. I don't know. ETR liked them more, I guess. But Ingram, big fade here. Only 14% exposure in Stochastics top 150 for the flex spots. Will Lutz, you're playing 8% less, so it does seem like they're flipping ownership a little bit, playing more of the Daniel Carlson side, the Raiders kicker, than Will Lutz on the Broncos side. Brock Bowers, negative 8% leverage here, so slight fade on him at the flex. And at captain. Wow, negative 15% Bowers overall. Adam in the chat would be rolling over in his grave. Marvin Mims, you should fade him entirely on the slate, I'll say that. But he was in the data set here. He was going to be a fade anyway. Bo Nix, slight fade at captain too. And overall, real fast, highest owned captains. Jency, 16% more than the field. Actually, well, let's go by ownership first. Or exposure first. Okay, never mind. I had it sorted right. Jency, you're getting basically 2x the field at captain for Jency. Bo Nix, you're getting 15% at captain, so still the number 2 owned captain overall, but less than the field's 20% expected captain ownership. Dobbins, 13% exposure captain, slight fade of his 15% expected ownership number. And Bowers, massive fade at captain. Still getting 11% exposure, but the field's expected to be at 17. And Broncos D, Trey Tucker, both of these at 7% captain. All right. I really don't know what to give the sim here to build a positive ROI lineup, but let's do a hand build. Final stage of our journey here. If you want another showdown for me, piece of content for me today, by the way, NBA at 2 p.m. There's only one NBA game today because the NBA Cup is tomorrow, so a lot of teams got moved to be playing then. So we have a Clippers team where James Harden's out for personal reasons. Kawhi is banged up. So it's going to be a weird slate for NBA. So tune into that 2 p.m. on the Splash Play Bets channel, or just click the playlist here on the regular Splash Play YouTube if you want. Let's build this lineup. Or we know the sim will give us some grace on Raiders dominant builds. So I am going to fade Broncos D in this lineup, I think, no matter what. I don't know I need to do it at captain. I'm going to go Bo Nix captain. Which the sim didn't love, but I'm still going to do it. I'm going to go Sutton and Franklin. So I'm going to try to move away from the Broncos RBs, given that Dobbins will be decently owned, and it didn't seem like the Sims were nuts about him. So we got a double stack here. I'm going to go to Geno. So he's still making it because he's passing to somebody. I don't mind Bowers, but I don't think we can afford that. Yeah, we straight up can't afford that. Trey Tucker. Raiders D. Raiders can shut down the run. We'll just play it for the leverage. Raiders D makes it 4,300 left. We'll go Michael Mayer, our one Raiders pass catcher. So the team that I just built here, 1,500 left on the table for a Bo Nix captain with Sutton, Franklin, Geno Smith, Raiders D, Michael Mayer. Negative 52? Fuck you. Negative 52 just feels a bit extreme. All right, let's increase the Bo Nix stack. We'll add Ingram on top. Leaves us 3,500. If this is negative, let's put in Tyler Lockett. The sim was okay with Tyler Lockett. So leaving 500 on the table here for a Nix, Sutton, Franklin, Geno, Evan Ingram, Tyler Lockett build. All right, we did it. 43% ROI. So we faded the defenses here, faded kicker as well, went more of a shootout, got a positive ROI and a 0.3% win rate. That is a chunky. Let's go to the GIF. I don't pull the GIFs up enough. It's a chunky. This one, though, is not a chunky. 43% ROI. We got it here. Pat Bryant is the third wide receiver. The sim won't reward that right now because it still thinks that Mims is an okay play because it hasn't been updated. But yeah, I think Bryant would look more viable in a sim once they update for Mims being out. That's not bad. All right, so we're good. That's the video for today, guys. I'm going to give you guys my 3 ways to get unique here because I do think we have a few that seem pronounced and noteworthy. And that has been a way to build some great lineups in the past. So hang on for that. Before we do that, though, guys, please do subscribe down below, hit the like button, leave a comment. Again, there's one dude showing you my gambling, whether it's here Monday and Thursday and Friday for the NFL. Of course, our 2 showdown slates and the main slate, NBA, every Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. on the Splash Play Bets channel. I'm just doing the best I can to tell you guys how I see things, and you can do whatever you want with it. It's really not a place of moral sanctimony with my takes. Take this info, do whatever's going to make you happy with it. But please do show some love. Hit that like button, subscribe. Would love to keep fighting the YouTube algorithm here on the NFL channel, as well as we are on the NBA channels. Or channel. God forbid if I have any more channels on top. Check out Stochastic too. All the stuff you saw here on screen, their data, the Sims products, it's all 15% off promo code SPLASH. It's a big way to support the show and what I'm doing here because half the money you pay to them comes back to me. And I really do appreciate that support a bunch here, especially this holiday season because trying to feel a little more sturdy in my freelance, working for myself lifestyle. And unfortunately, working for myself still means relying greatly on affiliate money. So please, promo code SPLASH, link down below. Check it out. And of course, the Discord, a lot of generous memberships today by guys like Tyler and Justin in the chat. But join down below. It's $5 to join. You get a weekly premium stream. You also get my data sheet updated here, all the advanced analytics from Sports Info Solutions I talk about, and a little cursory look at projections and ownership too. It's all in my data sheet, and I do put it out for you guys every Saturday. So I know it adds value. You guys like Lateralis have won $50K off it before. So please do join and do that and support the show. Get in the Discord too. Always a good place to be. 3 ways to get unique. Number 1 would be, again, just playing more Raiders offensively minded lineups. Like, I know it sounds really basic, but just really strongly believe that people will play the Broncos, steamroll the Raiders. And, look, that's a pretty decent likelihood, but you still win more money by just doing what people don't want to do, what makes them uncomfortable on a slate. And people don't want to play anything besides Bowers. And I think the data really supports that, backs it out. So if you're playing a guy who's been good, like Genty, it's a tough matchup for him. The run defense for the Broncos is as good as the pass defense, but there's upside there because that's just not going to play it as much. Similarly, number 2, I think just not playing defenses and kicker as much. In particular, Broncos D and Will Lutz. The sim is giving you more, so it is still saying that those guys are decent plays, but I think the defense might be even higher owned than Stochastic has it for right now. People love playing defense in a spot like this. People don't think Geno is good, but ultimately the fact that the Broncos create pressure and Geno drops back a lot, it's just volatility. We saw the negative side of volatility for, the QBs a little bit on Monday night, and how that ended up making those defenses make a lineup. Today, you might get the positive side of volatility where Geno goes nuts because he somehow beats the blitz. Is it the most likely thing to happen? No, but you probably win a lot of money if you get that outcome correct. Third way to get unique. Oh, man. Really just seems like, based on the sims, fading all the Broncos key players, because you had a lot of sims where you weren't getting pass catchers, you weren't getting Franklin and Sutton, you weren't getting J.K. Dobbins as much in some of those lineups. I think that seems like it, where it's like you're just trying to get the production through lesser players. Broncos do have a lot of guys that score touchdowns. RJ Harvey is frankly running way too hot on touchdowns, but he's got 4 receiving touchdowns in the year, I believe we said this morning on the strategy show on Stochastic. There's ways to do it today. Nick's running. He hasn't done as much this year, really going back to last year. When he figured out the offense a little bit better, he stopped running quite as much, but he still runs enough that he could punch one in as a touchdown. So I think there are ways to play Denver, even if you play the sort of expected Denver kicks ass builds that aren't just playing all the best Broncos. Seems like that was a way that's going to be a little bit overduped. But that's it for today, guys. I will be on the NBA channel again at 2 p.m., so check that out. Strategy show I did this morning on Stochastics. If you want another version of this from me, talk about the showdown where you get Lofty's takes mixed into, always adding a lot of value what he says in those videos. Makes me think about stuff differently too. Check that out on Stochastics channel. That's up there. And gamble responsibly, guys, even though it is always money time here on this channel. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the channel at SplashPlayPod. Check me out at 2 p.m. on the world of the NBA. And shout out to all you guys, and thanks once again for all the generous memberships from our guy Tyler and Justin as well. I appreciate you guys getting in the mix here. Join the Discord if you got a membership today. Link in the description. Just sync your YouTube to your Discord and you get added automatically on there. But I'll see you guys again soon. Enjoy your days and good luck, guys. And hopefully we have some fun with this game today. All right. Bye, guys.